I just made this entire video, which I'm about to play, but I just remembered that I had forgotten to add that the chaplain said that Lindsay, when she was asked, did Lindsay mention her children? She said yes. She said she's glad her children are safe. She's glad her children are safe. So what that says to me is that she's glad her children are dead. She's glad she did it. She's glad that she killed those kids because she's glad that they're dead. And I think that's fucking disgusting. And I think that she needs to be held accountable for what she's done and not put it on everybody else.
GetLoveDreamingBeach.com. How are you? It is Thursday, August 20th. It is 4:20 and I am doing a little bit of work, but I thought I would pop on and do a quick video for today about what I thought about Lindsay Clancy trial today, which was incredibly short. There was this one super creepy chaplain and she was talking like this and little baby bubble voice and gag me, bitch. Okay, that was disgusting. And she to me came off as a fucking liar. She claimed that Lindsay Clancy told her multiple times that she heard a man's voice. She saw her like 200 some fucking times. She made notes where she talked about, she quoted some of the things that Lindsay said. For example, Lindsay was looking forward to getting discharged and going to a better facility. And she was feeling better and things were looking up for her. And in all of the notes that this chaplain took and all of the quotes of Lindsay's that she wrote down. Oh my goodness, it's raining. I'm all wet and I've changed because my son was at practice and it started raining and I thought, let me run. Let me move this actually. It's gonna sound too loud probably. So I don't have any of my lights. I bought some more lights. They'll be in a couple days. I was trying to find my lights. I paused the video so I could go find my lights, which I have somewhere, but I couldn't find them. And then it started pouring, so I thought, oh my God, let me go get my son. Let me see if I can catch him on his way home. And I did, him and his friend. So luckily I was able to give his friend a ride home too, because it was like a flash flood. So anyway, continuing on, I felt that the testimony today, which was very, very brief, that breathy chaplain lady, who just seemed so fake to me. Like she was like acting in a porn movie. The way she, look, my hair got all wet. The way that she was talking like this. So what I was saying was that in all of her notes, she had various quotes of things that Lindsay Clancy said. Although I think that, side note, I think that Patrick Clancy should tell Lindsay, you're not allowed to use my name anymore. You need to go back to your maiden name. I don't want you to have this name. I'm remarried. And anyway, even if that, hopefully his new wife is more modern and not a patriarchal suck up. Which, speaking of, and didn't take his name, but I genuinely think, in my opinion, that if you support Lindsay Clancy being found psychotic at the time she killed her children, I think you're anti-woman. There's a lot of people who are pro-Lindsay who think that they're pro-woman. They think that they have women's interests in mind. But I think that, similar to Pat Brown, the profiler Pat Brown had said, I think that this line of defense, where she's basically saying, like, on one hand she's blaming it on the fact that she had babies postpartum, and on the other hand she's blaming it on the medication. On another hand, she's blaming it on the doctors and claiming that they over-medicated her and misdiagnosed her, didn't diagnose her properly. So basically, she's diagnosed herself. She's decided that she's bipolar and that she was having postpartum psychosis, even though none of the doctors that she saw those signs. None of the answers that she gave to questions revealed those symptoms. And she was only in this postpartum psychosis for like half an hour, which was the exact amount of time when she was murdering her children. So, was she exhausted? Yes. Did she have anxiety? Yes. Was she high-strung? Yes. Did she probably have some borderline personality disorder? Probably. Did she probably have some narcissistic personality disorder? Probably. Did she have some sociopathy? Like, I think that there's something seriously wrong with her. But like many murderers, just because there's something wrong with you and you did this evil, horrible thing, that to me, that just means that you need to be put away for life. You need to never be in a position where you could ever have children again. You need to not be in society. And you stole the lives of 3 little babies that could have lived to be 80, 90, 100 years old. So the 5-year-old, you stole decades and decades and all of them. The 3-year-old, the 8-month-old, you stole their entire lives that they could have had she not murdered them. And you know, again, I've said it before. If there was a guarantee, if this was like guilty by reason of insanity and therefore you're going to be held in a mental hospital, you will be held in a mental hospital until the point that if we ever get to the point where we think you are no longer like mentally ill, and then you can go to regular prison, then you can go to regular prison. Like, to me, I think that should be the thing. Like, if you're so mentally ill that you can't be in a regular prison, as if they're not mentally ill, but if you're so mentally ill that you can't function in a regular prison, fine, go to a mental health prison. And if and when you get to the point where you're no longer so mentally ill that you need to be in that super specialized kind of place, then you can go finish the rest of your sentence out in a prison. And do I think that prisons shouldn't be so horrific? I do, but there's nothing I can do about that now. And I don't think it's right to say, well, oh, she's in a wheelchair, she's suffering. Like, I saw multiple comments where people say the fact that she's in a wheelchair is enough of a punishment. No, it's not. She did that to herself. The fact that she's sad over the fact that her kids are dead, bitch, she killed them herself. So who cares if you're sad? You could be sad every day for the rest of your life. that still is not a punishment. That is not justice. That is not the pay. Like, so you cry every day. Who gives a fuck? You should cry every day because what you did was evil and horrible. And you could go think about it and cry about it in some place where you are not out and about, because I just don't think that somebody I don't care. I don't care if you're fucking mental, then go somewhere where the fucking mental people go. And when you're no longer mental, then go finish the rest of your life in prison. Like I said in all the other videos, they're claiming that she was begging for help, but she was actually creating a paper trail that looked like she was going to get a lot of help. She created a paper trail of excessive prescriptions, but she also didn't take most of those prescriptions. So to claim that she was over medicated when she wasn't even taking the prescriptions that the way they prescribed them to her, she would take it for a day or two, or at most a week, and then be like, oh my God, I'm addicted. Like, what are you talking about? And, you know, again, like I said yesterday, she had so many people willing to watch her children, to give her relief, to give her time to go to therapy. She had referrals to therapists. She had inpatient referrals. She could have gone someplace where she could have brought the baby. She had a husband who was working from home to give her time. She had a nanny who was giving her time. She had her mom who was willing to come and stay for multiple days a week, repeatedly, like ongoingly. She had her in-laws who were willing. I mean, I do think that they came off very strange, and but at the same time, I mean, are they acting strange because they're more interested in getting, like, I was talking to my son about it, and he's like, he just doesn't understand. And I'm like, well, my son is like anti-prison. And I'm like, think about how you feel about prison. Now think about if this is somebody you love. And I think that, either they have convinced themselves that she really did have a psychotic break because that's the only thing that makes sense to them, or they're pretending that they believe that because it's just, they don't want her to be in prison. They'd rather that she get to go to a mental health facility and then have a chance of getting out. And maybe because of the fact that, if they can convince a jury that this was the medication's fault and it was the doctor's fault, and it wasn't Lindsay's fault, it was their fault. Like, it's their fault, even though she didn't take the medication as prescribed. She decided what she wanted to take, what she didn't want to take. She's the one that kept going and getting more medications from different doctors. She's the one that actively chose not to do the therapeutic things that could actually help her feel better, and just focus solely on medication. And then she killed her children, and then she wanted to turn around and say, you just over medicated me. Like, no, bitch, you didn't get legitimate help. You kept going from doctor to doctor getting different medications, and you're the one, like, if she had stuck with one provider and done therapy and been consistent and been honest, and this is the thing, this whole like, oh, I heard voices, but it only happened conveniently after the fact. If they're like, this is what I was saying about the chaplain and the Dr. Zeisel guy. They want to use the fact that she's claiming she heard voices after the fact to say she had postpartum psychosis, and therefore she's not criminally, legally liable. And the reason why it matters so greatly to me that the chaplain had no notes, this is even still after the fact. She didn't tell a single one. So she was bouncing around to all these different doctors. The people who are pro-Lindsay are like, that's not doctor shopping and pill shopping. That's because she was trying to find somebody who would actually help her.
But if that was the case, why wasn't she telling them what she was really thinking and feeling? Why wasn't she asking for actual therapy? There's group therapy, there's individual therapy, there's art therapy and dance therapy and music therapy, there's sound therapy, there's meditation, there's guided meditation, there's massage therapy, there's water therapy, there's you can talk therapy. And within the talk therapy world, there's so many different kinds of therapy. There's absolutely talk therapists who deal with postpartum depression. Like, she sought out Dr. Tufts, who was a postpartum depression specialist, even though the defense tried to claim that she wasn't. She literally was. But she wasn't really doing therapy. Lindsay, like, this is the thing. Lindsay chose to do telemedicine by video, except for the few times when they insisted you have to come in for this intake or whatever. And she spent a couple of days at, I don't know if it was 2-3 days. I don't think it was as many as 5 days, but she spent a few days in a facility. She checked herself out because she wanted to go to her daughter's party. I understand wanting to go to your daughter's party, but if you truly feel like you're desperately seeking help and you're afraid of what you're going to do to yourself or others, then you fucking stay and you get help. That's what you do for your daughter for her birthday. You get help so that she can keep having birthdays. But no, instead of getting help, she checked herself out and murdered that same daughter who she had to get out to get to the birthday party. She killed her like less than 2 weeks later. So how much was she really begging for help? How, like, this is the thing, these defense lovers, the Lindsay baby killer lovers, Kevin Reddington, and the people who like agree with him, they think that mental health professionals are supposed to be able to read your mind. If you lie to them or you omit things and you don't tell them stuff, they're supposed to fucking know. They should know. The people like your husband and your sister and your mother-in-law and like these people who you supposedly said, I think I could hurt the kids, or I'm thinking of hurting the kids or killing myself. Like, I feel like they're lying, that they're pretending that she said that to them, because if they were mandated reporters, which they were, or if they were like actually fucking not like the fact that the storyline is that, can you hear that train? The storyline is that she told family members and they didn't think it was serious and they didn't act on it. And they were fucking mandated reporters, at least the sister, the mother, and the mother-in-law. I think the mother. Maybe not the mother. The sister and the mother-in-law. But the doctors who she was going begging for help, she didn't tell them. She told them that she had thoughts about killing herself, but when asked about a plan, she said no. And people are mad because they feel like if somebody tells you that they have suicidal thoughts, I guess you're supposed to just throw them in a mental facility. Or, if you ask them, well, do you have plans? And they say no, you're not supposed to believe them. It's like, this is what I'm saying. People who are pro-Lindsay are not pro-woman, and they're actually not pro-mental health, because they're not advocating for people being able to speak about their mental health issues without being thrown into a fucking mental health facility against their will. It's like, if a doctor can't distinguish, is not allowed to make a distinction between somebody who's like, I do have thoughts about it, but I don't have any intention or plan to do it. If they're not allowed to make a distinction between that, and they're just supposed to like immediately put that person under lock and key against their will, then is that really helping people?
Because there's a lot of people who have those kind of thoughts, but they don't have plans and they don't act on it. And they have the thoughts, but that doesn't mean that they actually have the intention to go through with it. So where is the line? It's like when you have a cutoff, like a deadline, you know, like for school, the cutoff when I was a kid, it was you had to be 5 by December 31st of that year in order to go to kindergarten. So you could be 4 years old from September, October, November, December. So for 4 months, you know, if your birthday was somewhere, let's say December 31st, that happened to me. That's not my birthday, December 31st, but it's in the last quarter of the year, I'll say. And so I actually was like 4 years old in first grade. And then, like, when I graduated high school, when I started high school, I was 16, and then I turned 17, and I graduated high school at 17. Now, your birthday, you have to be 5 years old by, I think it's by October 1st. So, or is it October 1st? I don't know for sure, but let's just say, for the argument's sake, you have to be 5 by October 1st. So people who are born October 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, they might feel like it's literally so close. It's like a day. It's like 2 days. But if you do not, if you have a deadline or a cutoff, but you don't adhere to it, and you let it be loosey-goosey, but my birthday's just the 2nd. My son's birthday is the 2nd, October 2nd. You should let me in. It's not fair I have to wait a whole nother year because of one day. But then the October 3rd person might say that. And then what about like October 10th? You know, it's like, where's the cutoff if you don't have a cutoff and you hold to that cutoff? So, okay, I'm talking about dates, but I'm using it as an example of like, if you don't have a standard for something, then, so the point that I'm getting at is it's like if somebody says I have suicidal thoughts, but they don't have a plan and they don't have like actual intentions to do it, like when are you supposed to just like snatch them up and basically imprison them? Yeah, in a mental health facility. But so, and how does that encourage people to be honest? So now, am I saying that she shouldn't have shared that she had a plan? No. I think if she genuinely had a plan, which it seems like she did, not only did she have a plan, she had a plan to kill her 3 children. So, how is it their fault that she didn't tell them the truth? How is it the mental health professional's fault for not knowing that she was lying, which is what Kevin Reddington said? You know that people lie. Yeah, people do lie, but if you don't report it, it's another example which I've been thinking of. When I was in my early 20s, I was like 21 or 22, and I had a car. It was like I just got my license at 21. I got a job. I had to drive on this little, like, it's not really a highway, but it's kind of like not quite highway, but busier than a regular like resident, you know, like corporate offices and restaurants and like a busy road. Okay. And so anyway, one day I'm driving down the road and there was a green light and I had my right blinker on because I was going to go to the store. And, but then like as I'm driving, I realized, oh shit, I left my bag at my desk. I don't have my license. I don't have my wallet. And so I turned my blinker off at the last second and I went straight through the green light. But the street that I was going to turn down, there was a car stopped at the red light and he was going to make a right on red, which he could do if there was no oncoming traffic. And because I had my blinker on, he thought it was safe to go. And so when I decided the last second to go straight instead, and he thought he could go, and he hit me. But it was not that hard because he was going from a stop, so it bonked me, and my car tape flew out. Actually, I think the radio flew out, and I was like, "What the fuck was that?" I didn't even realize I was hit, and so I start to slow down, and I look through the rear view, and I see a guy with his grill was on the ground, and it was some fluorescent green. That's what I remember. Okay, but the point is that when the cops came and I told them what had happened, but I forgot to say I turned my blinker off at the last second. And so I called the cops and I said, "Oh, I did a police report earlier this afternoon, but I forgot to say that I had turned my blinker off." And the cops said, "Well, unfortunately, for legal, he said, because the short version is, unfortunately, you cannot add stuff to the police report after the fact because, what you said at the time, that becomes the legal record, and then for insurance purposes and stuff. And the reason for that is because you could then go home and be like, oh shit, I'm going to get in trouble, so I want to change my story so that I don't seem like I'm at fault. I don't want to be held culpable. I don't want to be held responsible. I need to make up some excuse, some reason after the fact to excuse myself from being responsible." And so they don't allow you to change the police report after the fact, because if you couldn't think to fucking mention it at the time, then you know what? It's too late. You can't change it after. And so that's what I'm thinking about. That's what Lindsay's trying to do. After the murders, after days in the hospital of having, being able to think about it, after speaking to a different attorney, after speaking to at least 2 or 3 different psychiatrists or mental health professionals and other people in the hospital, Kevin Reddington sent over Dr. Seisel, and all of a sudden, 11 days after, I heard a voice, a male's voice, a persistent male's voice that told me, "You better kill those kids so you could go kill yourself." Bitch. And who did she supposedly tell? She supposedly told the chaplain. The chaplain's notes do not reflect that. And now this is the point that I'm getting at. Even if the chaplain's notes said it, it still would be suspicious because, again, after the fact. But now here we go in testimony. Bitch, you never even wrote it down. Supposedly the most important part of this whole thing, that she was possessed by a voice that was either induced by this medication that she barely took, or is it the postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis? This is what I'm saying. Is it because you had a baby 8 months ago and you were stressed out because you had 2 other babies and it's postpartum psychosis? Or are you having a fucking severe reaction to pharmaceutical drugs and you just happen to have a psychotic break for half an hour while you killed your kids, which you obviously had previously planned because you did it fucking lickety-split, and you had all 3, you had 3 bands ready to go, 1 for each kid, and you planned your husband's outing to 2 separate places, an outing which was completely unnecessary because you could have picked up the CVS medication on your way home from the doctor, and you could have ordered delivery. So there was no real need to do those trips. And why, if you had a 5-year-old daughter who was in pain, a stomach ache for multiple days, why would you let that poor little baby suffer all night just so your husband could go out later to get it? How much of a loving mother are you that you would let your little daughter go through multiple more hours of pain. I literally went to go pick up my 17-year-old son, who was at the park, which is a 5-minute walk away. The reason my hair is wet is because I saw how bad it was raining, and I said, if I can pick my son up even halfway home, just a half a block, so he doesn't have to be in this pouring rain. I didn't want to risk anything. I saw a flash flood warning, and I said, I will drive to go pick him up. I don't want him to get swept away in a flood. I don't want him to be in this weather. And so I drove around the block looking for my son in this rain, and I was able to find him and his friend, and then give his friend a ride home as well. Because of course I don't want either of them in the rain like that. Okay? 17-year-old kids, they're big, they're strong. But I still want to protect them. My son is sick, he's not feeling well. I drop everything and I zoom off to pick him up. One day my son was at school and the nurse called me. He said, oh, your son threw up a little bit. He's not feeling well. His stomach hurts. I'll be there in 10 minutes. So no, I can't relate to a woman claiming to love her children so much. But your 5-year-old, now 5-year-old is even more important that you alleviate their pain right away, because they're young. It's harder for them to understand. Like a 17-year-old walking home in the pouring rain, he didn't expect me to come get him, but of course for me, I'm doing it. I opened the door, it was fucking pouring, and I was like, I do not want to step out into this. But if I don't want to step out into this, why would I want my child walking home in this? If there's a chance that I could get him, I'm gonna do that. So it is hard for me to relate to a woman who claims to love her children so much, but would intentionally let her daughter suffer extra hours for what I think was an intentional setup. I think that when she was going to do, I feel like she wanted to kill her kids, that she was done being a mother. She I don't know, like, I feel that she had a fantasy of motherhood and then the reality, and that it wasn't working out the way she thought. And maybe her husband had truly pulled away from her. Like, maybe she was so obsessive. And that's the other thing. People are like, she was such a good mother. I don't think an obsessive mother who is like on you, like micromanaging every single detail of everything, I don't think that that's good and loving mother. I think that's an overbearing, possessive, obsessive abuser. It's abusive to be constantly like trying to control every single minute of your child's life. Like, that is no, that's not healthy. Do I think that Lindsay Clancy had some mental issues? I do. But again, I do not believe that being out of your fucking mind and killing your children is a pass. It's not. And I don't think that in 10 or 15 years that she should get to roll out of there when she's all better. I don't think 10 or 15 years is enough for stealing 3 babies' lives. They could have each lived for, let's say, 70 years, which is not that long. So that's 210 years minimum. Even if you want to say they could live to 50, which is half of what they could potentially live, or 2/3 of it, that's still 150 years that bitch should be behind bars. And do I give a fuck if it's a mental health prison or prison? I don't. But I don't think that she should be allowed to walk free or roll free. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully, I don't know. I think that just like Karen Reed. So when I was watching Karen Reed, I still had hope that the jury was not going to be swayed by the fucking pink mob of ridiculous like sympathy. You know, it's like wealthy white woman who's semi attractive, and it's like, oh my god, wealthy white women should never be held accountable for their crimes or their, you know. I think in Karen's case, you know, unlike Lindsay, who premeditated the murder of her 3 fucking babies, I think Karen was insanely jealous and insanely drunk, and that she made a insanely violent, you know, jealous rage, like a heat of passion. She killed him. I think she ran over him. She banged into him because she was pissed off that he was going into that party, and I believe that she thought that he was seeing somebody else. She said it. Witnesses said it. And I believe that she fucking rammed into him and left him in the fucking snow. And then at some point when she started to call Kerry and Jen McCabe, Kerry Roberts and Jen McCabe, that she started to like realize what the fuck she'd done. And I don't think that she was an evil murderer. I think she was an insanely jealous, enraged, drunk driver who did a horrific thing. I think she should have gotten 2nd-degree murder. And I don't know what, 20 years or something, which is still, she took a life, but, even if she gotten 10 or 15 years, it would have been better than 12 months of fucking, what was it? You can't drive for 12 months. Some shit like that. Like, it was so insane. But I also had hope that Wendy Adelson would be arrested. And now I don't think that that's true. Now I would be insanely shocked if Wendy Adelson got arrested. And I would be even more shocked if they actually were able to get a conviction, because some people think she's attractive. I think she looks like a horse or something. Some people think she's pretty and she has money, and she's a fucking white lady. You hear that train? Oh, that one's extra squealy. 2, one going this way, one going that way. My new house is literally across the street from the train. No houses on that side because it's a train track, which is a little bit annoying, but I like that there's no houses because there's less neighbors, which is good. But it goes by a lot. It starts at like 4 something in the morning. It doesn't stop. The last train is at 1:15 a.m. So from 4:30 a.m. to like 10:30, they're like every 10 to 15 to 30 minutes. Then 10 to 3:30 or 10 to 2:30. I think it's to 3:30. They're once an hour, but it's 2 because it's this way and that way. Coming and going. And then from like 3:30 to like 7:30, it's every 10 to 30 minutes. And then from 7:30 to 1:15 in the morning, it's once an hour, but twice, because anyway, I'm sort of getting used to it. It's been a month. We've been here for a month now. Anyway, those are my thoughts about Lindsay. Clancy, who should go. I am curious, what is her maiden name? Lindsay Musgrove. If I was Patrick, I would be like, Lindsay Musgrove? That's fucking who you need to be known as, bitch. Lindsay Musgrove. Take my fucking name out your motherfucking mouth and off of legal paperwork. Fuck you, bitch. You do not get to use that name ever again. Okay, see you in the next one, and we out.
GetLoveDreamingBeach.com